Now.
On 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app.
O'Connor and Company.
It is 6:06. It's O'Connor and Company. Thanks for tuning in on this Tuesday morning in your nation's capital. Now, I want to give you a heads up. There are reports that Kamala Harris could be announcing her running mate at any moment. It is imminent. The second it happens, we will deliver that information to you. The reports that are being leaked right now say that it has been narrowed down to two. Mark Kelly, the senator from Arizona, has been ruled out. He's the guy who owns a Chinese spy balloon company.
Good Lord. Just can't make this.
I'm thinking there may want to be an investigation of some sort, regardless of whether he's the running mate or not. But, you know. So he's out. It's down now, we're told, between Josh Shapiro, the governor of Pennsylvania, who has been the governor for, I believe, a year or two. Before that was the attorney general. He was very much involved in ensuring that the 2020 ballots were counted in the way that they were in Pennsylvania. He has also been under fire for, being Jewish.
Right.
And that sort of thing does not fly in the Democratic Party.
No, the squad will be very upset.
But recently he's been able to make a show of saying, I'm Jewish, but I'm not Jewish.
Right, he's apologized for his Zionistic tendencies.
I wrote an article saying Israel has the right to exist, but I was 20.
I didn't mean it.
I volunteered for the IDF, but come on, I wwent with the crowd. I think the Babylon Bee said
when they asked me to take those photos, I needed the money.
He's a... It is Tana. Actually, he'd be better off if he did gay porn.
I didn't go that far.
Absolutely. Well, I just assumed that it was. Did you not mean porn?
I did, but I mean, I meant photos.
Well, the only
like
porn...
Madonna doing like a nudie photos.
Okay, but the only porn pictures that men take are gay porn because women aren't interested in that sort of thing unless they're pole vaulters. So, honestly, if you're
Let's not bring up yesterday.
If you're a Democrat and you are a potential Veep pick, I think it would be more acceptable to the base that you did gay porn in your youth than that you supported the state of Israel. Right. So that's the hurdle Josh Shapiro has here. Although, honestly, if I'm going to give you complete and total analysis, he would be the strongest choice.
Sure, yeah.
He would actually shore up concerns that people have about the Democrats' position on Israel.
He would moderate her a little.
And he could bring Pennsylvania, which is pretty important. That said, when was the last time they took my advice? The other choice, apparently, is Tim Walz. Now, he's the governor of Minnesota, a state that has not voted for a Republican since Nixon.
Yep.
The only state that didn't vote for Ronald Reagan, and she's picking. I mean, everyone's saying, "Oh, Trump picked Vance because he's just MAGA and America first and from a red state." You don't get more blue state than Minnesota.
That's
Literally,
right.
it is the bluest state in the nation.
He's interesting though. They've got this whole like, "Aw shucks, I wear a baseball cap and I kind of have this folksy kind of demeanor about Tim Walz," but he's a radical. And he sat there and allowed his state to burn during the BLM
That's
protests.
right. He engineered the initial George Floyd BLM, defund the police, we're at fault here kind of thing, number one. Number two, and let the riots go. You're absolutely right. Number two, he's on record. I think I saw a video of him in a television interview saying that if Trump builds a wall, he will invest in a ladder company to help people climb over the wall.
Good God.
He's your new border czar,
he's
guys.
He's not just rolling out the welcome mat. He's like, let me hand you a ladder.
Well, he's a Minnesota Democrat.
Yes,
there are Democrats and there are Minnesota Democrats, and this is exactly. Again, if everyone knocks Trump for shoring up his base by picking J.D. Vance, then I can't wait to hear all of the criticisms of Kamala Harris shoring up her base by picking Tim Walz. By the way, no matter who he picks, obviously this is a DEI hire. She is obviously bending over backwards. There has not been a woman in the mix, I think, since Gretchen Whitmer was sort of floated for a while there, but she was eliminated quickly because they're basically the same person. And no person of color has ever been under consideration for this job. She is pretty much exclusively just looking at white men because she wants to diversify her ticket. She's learned from the master.
That's
Biden
right. Yep.
said, I got to pick a black woman because we need diversity. So there you go. I'm sorry, DEI works in all directions.
Yeah.
And this is Kamala Harris and her DEI hire, some white dude who's supposed to make white dudes feel better about Kamala Harris. But because there's this implication or inference that white men are racist. And white men won't vote for Kamala Harris because she's a woman of color. And therefore, we got to have a white man to keep those Midwest voters because, they're racist.
And I think Tim Walz is perfect for that because he is a self-hating white man who is, he's eager to sort of, bow down to the woke mobs. He supports them. He's
an ally.
Yes, he's an ally.
He took a knee.
So, yes. So I think it's going to be him.
You think it's going to be Tim Walz?
Yep. Because I think he's a white dude he's a self-hating white dude. He makes everyone feel, guilty for their own, for being a white male. He'll prostrate himself to the woke mobs. So, and he did. So I think he's just the kind of white dude. And I think Josh Shapiro has a problem being Jewish.
Yeah.
Now, he doesn't have a problem, but with the left will not forgive that.
I suppose we'll see. I mean, I still think Josh Shapiro is the strongest. Also, who's the strongest in a one? If you're thinking in these terms, who's the strongest in a one-on-one debate with J.D. Vance? And I think Josh Shapiro is a superior voice of superior intellect, and he's been more reasonable, I think, on some things. Very narrow, but some things.
Yeah, but I think Tim Walz, he's the one who coined the weird. Yeah. He'll be aggressive towards J.D. Vance and vicious, and I think that's what they want. I think Shapiro will be seen as too mild-mannered and maybe too reasonable, Larry.
Well, as reasonable as he might be on certain issues, don't forget, he is the person who vowed to stand by Leah Thomas and the bastardization of women's sports in the state of Pennsylvania. That was at University of Pennsylvania, where the Leah Thomas debacle occurred, where a fully grown, intact, 6-foot-plus man was forced into a women's locker room. And if any of the female athletes, like Paula Scanlon, who was on that team, complained, they were sent to therapy to get over their concerns about a naked man. That's Josh Shapiro's Pennsylvania. So, he's reasonable on the bell curve of unreasonableness that is the Democrat Party.
I'm not saying he was a reasonable. I'm saying he was more. He's more reasonable than some of them. But I actually think that'll be a problem for him.
You do?
Yes.
With the general
I don't think he's
election.
radically left enough. Is my point.
All right. Well, we shall see. We're awaiting that decision, and once it comes down, we'll give you full details, full analysis, and either way, as Donald Trump always likes to say, I don't think the running mate makes that big a difference. And honestly, I don't know if it will. That's why I say Shapiro could be the one who could make a difference because Pennsylvania is in play. He's very popular in Pennsylvania. He just won. I don't see any of them being qualified to be president, though, either of them. But that's not really a consideration these days, I suppose. After all, Kamala Harris was
After all, we had Obama.
It's
WMAL.
Making sense of the news.
Live
From the Home Paramount Pest Control Studios.
Home Paramount, the leader in pest control since 1939.
Babylon Bee yesterday with a headline, Drunken Kamala mistakenly picks wrong Shapiro for VP, and it's got a picture of Ben.
I love it.
They're so good. All right, as we await the announcement that is imminent, we do want to move on with some other stories yesterday. And, well, Susan Crabtree, who joins us at 7:35 from Real Car Politics, she's done it again. She is the reporter to cover the Secret Service, and here's her latest exclusive. Former Secret Service Chief Cheadle, you remember her. She's the one who was protecting Frito-Lay's before Jill Biden. And I just want you to think about this as you hear this story. Dr. Jill, the matriarch of the Biden family, Hunter's stepmom, knowing everything there is to know about all the dirty little secrets of the Biden family and the Biden children and the Biden grandchildren. She specifically said, I want this woman to be the Secret Service director. Because understand something, the Secret Service, they're known for two things with regard to protecting their protectees, the president and what have you. Number one, they are courageous and will literally take a bullet and give their life on behalf of the president and the nation. That's phenomenal. The other thing is they see and hear everything. The Secret Service have a sworn, it's like a priest hearing confession. They see and hear everything that goes on in the limo, in the mansion, in the residence. And the people who are part of the presidential family, they kind of get used to it. They pretend they're not there anymore. They speak very openly because they know that these agents have a sworn duty to not reveal everything they know, everything they saw, everything they heard. And so Dr. Jill wanted to make sure that going in, they got their woman in charge of the Secret Service.
That's right.
Because the protection goes well beyond just physical safety.
It does.
So now here's the story. Susan Crabtree, former Secret Service Chief Cheadle, wanted to destroy cocaine evidence. According to 3 sources in the Secret Service community, new details emerge about the unsolved cocaine mystery. You'll remember they found a baggie of cocaine there in a very, very private, exclusive part of the White House. A partial DNA hit was discovered on the package, and Secret Service leaders bungled the efforts to make it all disappear. Cheadle and others retaliated against a top official in the Secret Service Uniform Division over his refusal to go along with their push to dispose of the cocaine. That's something that's alleged in this article. There's some question about whether they retaliated against, but Cheadle specifically wanted to destroy whatever evidence was left.
Yes. And of course, given Hunter's well-known, well-documented addiction to cocaine and crack cocaine and other substances, it makes sense that she would want to help out her friend Jill in this embarrassing episode.
Susan Crabtree continues, 7.5 hours after I first sent the Secret Service a detailed set of assertions and questions about its leadership's handling of the discovery of cocaine in the White House and the 11-day investigation that followed this morning, the Secret Service spokesman emailed me a blanket statement saying my reporting is false. I had asked him to let me know in the first 2 to 3 hours if he was planning to provide a statement. There was no response in that time frame, despite 2 emails and 2 phone calls onto his cell phone. Secret Service spokesman Anthony Guglielmi, he's really been great, this spokesperson recently, hasn't he? Denied that Cheadle or Rowe or anyone in Secret Service leadership asked for the cocaine evidence to be destroyed. Let me pause. This is the same spokesman and the same leadership at the Secret Service that denied that Trump's campaign was had been refused any additional Secret Service compliment until a week later when they admitted it was true. So take their denials with a proper
bucket of salt.
Thank you. Guglielmi, however, ignored a detailed set of assertions from my sources and questions asking if an agent or officer had been removed from the investigation and whether anyone had been retaliated against for rejecting leadership's orders or requests during that process or afterward. This is false, Guglielmi said in a statement. The U.S. Secret Service takes its investigative and protective responsibilities very seriously. There are retention policies for criminal investigations, and the Secret Service adhered to those requirements during this case. That's not what the report suggests. The report asks if there were attempts to circumvent the retention policies. And all he said was, this is false. What specifically is false? He doesn't say. You know, she could have gotten a time wrong or a name wrong, but just to blanket this as false is a fascinating denial.
This is a really heartbreaking story, though, ultimately, because, you know, the faith that we all as Americans had in the Secret Service, it is really sad to see what's happened there. And again, it's under Chief Cheadle, who seems to have brought politics into the Secret Service, seems to have really hurt this really admired agency. So
I think it's gone into overdrive with Cheadle because I think because she was brought in, she, again, talk about the politics of this agency. She left when Trump was elected. And you'll remember there were Secret Service agents who said, I won't take a bullet for this man. I said, fine, leave. Then she comes back when the Bidens get in. Joe Biden specifically selects her to be in charge.
Which is just insane.
Right. And so, yes, it went into overdrive. But I remember disconcerting reports about
Sure.
the Secret Service during the Obama administration. People who had been able to hop the fence at the White House.
Yes.
That's why they built new fencing and knew this and that. Remember how somebody actually made it into the mansion?
That's right, yes.
During the Obama administration, there has been a deterioration, it appears, of professionalism within the Secret Service ranks that have been going on. And I think it has much to do with politics, yes, but it also, sadly, I think it has more to do with the bureaucratic rot that happens with every permanent agency of the federal government. They, too, now have been infected with this. What's the their most important responsibility is to protect their institution instead of actually protecting the Constitution.
Yeah. And I think you're right that this is another case of sort of bureaucratic rot that is
We've
a problem
seen the circling the
throughout
wagons for the last
Washington.
couple of
yes,
weeks.
People just don't leave. There's no new blood.
Yeah.
People are really dug in. Yes.
And we also have...
This is the administrative state. This is the fourth branch of government.
So that's the Secret Service cocaine story. Susan Crabtree, Real Clear Politics, joins us at 7:35. We also have updates on the Secret Service, with that whole assassination attempt and the botched
The one
security
that's being forgotten.
in Butler, Pennsylvania. Well, we haven't forgotten, and we have more developments on that coming up. It's 6:23.
Now,
On 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app.
O'Connor and Company.
6:36 on O'Connor and Company. Busy Tuesday morning, and we got you covered, including with the imminent announcement from what's her name, Kamala Harris. Imminent announcement from Kamala Harris of who her running mate might be.
You're thinking Shapiro. I'm thinking
You're
Tim
thinking
Walz.
Waltz. We'll see. Either way, the subplot will be with Shapiro, the relationship with Israel, with Waltz, the George Floyd BLM movement.
Yep.
It really depends. If she's going for more racial division, more, black identity politics, Waltz will be the pick. We'll see. We'll absolutely see. And as soon as we know, we'll let you know. Coming up, we've got so many people joining us later in the program. I do want to tell you, starting at 7:05, Robert Greenway, Director of Center for National Security at Heritage, about the latest tensions between Iran and Israel. 7:35, Susan Crabtree on the Secret Service. 8:05, Charles Payne, Fox Business. And 8:35, Tom Bevan. That's Julie Gunlock, and I'm Larry O'Connor. And did you see Jamie Raskin yesterday? What a guy that Jamie Raskin is.
He is something else.
He's, of course, the congressman from right here, right across the street from us, basically. In Maryland, he was the lead counsel on the impeachments of Donald Trump. He is now the ranking member on the Judiciary Committee. And, of course, he was one of the advocate voices on behalf of Liz Cheney and Adam Kinzinger's January 6th committee. And he was speaking very freely, and I don't know if he knew he was on camera or mic or not, although there was a microphone there, but maybe he didn't know it was being recorded.
Right.
It was some kind of book event at Politics and Prose, this
Right.
crazy left-wing sort of fever swamp place over on Connecticut Avenue. I'm pointing right over to where it is, in case you were wondering. Politics and Prose, where they are all crazy left-wing liberals, and they talk about crazy left-wing liberal things.
While eating tofu.
And he was commenting on the Supreme Court's decision to send down the charges against Donald Trump brought by Jack Smith as being unconstitutional because of certain levels of presidential immunity.
Right.
Here's his reaction to that.
What can be put into the Constitution can slip away from you very quickly. And the greatest example going on right now before our very eyes is Section 3 of the 14th Amendment, which they're just disappearing with a magic wand, as if it doesn't exist, even though it could not be clearer what it's stating. And so, they want to kick it to Congress. So it's going to be up to us on January 6, 2025, to tell the rampaging Trump mobs that he's disqualified. And then we need bodyguards for everybody and Civil War conditions, all because the 9 justices, not all of them, but these justices who have not many cases to look at every year, not that much work to do, a huge staff, great protection, simply do not want to do their job and interpret what the great 14th Amendment means.
Wow.
This is what, our friend Molly Hemingway often calls, assassination prep. I think this is more of that. You want to avoid civil war. You want to avoid major, upheaval in our country. This is what's going to happen, and we're going to have to react to it. They are planning to keep him out of. They're still planning it, Larry.
Oh, and the language being used there, the rampaging mobs
hordes
of Trump supporters.
Everybody needs a bodyguard.
If anyone needs to sort of get a translation here, I know we have the smartest listeners in all of radio on the planet, literally, but just in case you missed it, he's referring to the Section 3 of the 14th Amendment that prohibits someone who has led an insurrection or rebellion against the United States from holding office again. By the way, that's specific to those who had held office before said insurrection or rebellion. From holding office. And by the way, it has very specific language, including as an officer of the United States, as a member of Congress, or as an officer of the United States. And I don't think the president is an officer. That said, you don't even need to split hairs there. There was no insurrection.
Right.
There was no rebellion on January 6th.
And he certainly didn't call for one.
I know that it wasn't an insurrection because no one has been charged with insurrection.
That's correct.
Insurrection against the United States government is, in fact, a federal crime. And Lord knows the Justice Department has spent tens, if not hundreds of millions of dollars prosecuting grandma for walking through a door that a cop opened on the Capitol that day. And Lord knows Jack Smith threw the book at Donald Trump.
There's a guy serving a 22-year sentence for being in Baltimore at the time.
But not for insurrection. Not one charge for insurrection. It just wasn't. But that's Jamie Raskin invoking the 14th Amendment, Section 3, and he specifically says keeping down the violent hordes of Trump supporters by telling them that Trump is disqualified. Understand what that scenario looks like. What he means is Trump wins the election, but we're going to keep him from office. And the problem in his perspective in that whole scenario is you, the voter, who voted for Trump, and now he's calling you a violent horde of Trump supporters. No, that's the majority of the American people through the Electoral College who have actually used their vote to select their president, Mr. Raskin. And you unilaterally, with a handful of other elite Democrats, will decide, nope, we're going to keep your selection from being in the White House. That is the most rebellious and insurrectionist and unconstitutional language I've heard in this entire thing.
That's a coup.
That is a coup. Well, they're used to it. They just did one with their own nominee.
Yeah.
This is their mindset, and they got away with that.
And they did it with the Russia collusion. They did it with the Ukraine phone call. They have done everything they can to put a stop to Trump.
Listen to him one more time, because as is often noted, but it can't be repeated enough, when they tell you who they are, listen to them and believe them.
What can be put into the Constitution can slip away from you very quickly. And the greatest example going on right now before our very eyes is Section 3 of the 14th Amendment, which they're just disappearing with a magic wand, as if it doesn't exist, even though it could not be clearer what it's stating. And so, they want to kick it to Congress, so it's going to be up to us on January 6, 2025, to tell the rampaging Trump mobs that he's disqualified. And then we need bodyguards for everybody in civil war conditions, all because the 9 justices, not all of them, but these justices who have not many cases to look at every year, not that much work to do, a huge staff.
We are 4 weeks, not even 4 weeks, from an assassination attempt on Donald Trump's life. And this is a sitting congressman using this kind of language. Civil war conditions is the language he's
hoarding
using.
Crowds.
Right. And by the way, saying that this is all because of these Supreme Court justices who also have to have their own private security protect them. One of those justices actually had a bona fide kidnapping and assassination attempt against him. And this is the language that Jamie Raskin is employing casually. With giggles going on in the room.
Yes. And again, this is, I said it earlier, this is this assassination prep where you're telling people if he isn't stopped, we're going to have civil war conditions. We're going to have bodyguards for everyone. We're going to have hoarding Trump masses. That's scary to some people, especially unhinged people.
And listen, I'm no sitting congressman with the kind of stature and honor that Jamie Raskin has. But I'll attempt to actually be the grown-up in the room and calm everybody down. This will never happen. The 14th Amendment specifically calls for 2/3 of the House and 2/3 from the Senate. It's not going to happen. Jamie Raskin is fueling anger and hatred and fury and paranoia for no reason at all, except for his own lamentable political career and whatever kudos he gets from the small crowd of tofu-eating Birkenstock wearers at Politics and Prose. But I will be the grown-up in the room and tell you that's not something to worry about. It's not something to fear. We don't have Civil War conditions. Stand down, Congressman Raskin. Repent, apologize, and shut the hell up. Interesting news here. Kellyanne Conway. And I thought Kellyanne Conway was going to, it looked like she was going to join the campaign. She does not have an official role on the campaign, does she? I apologize for not knowing.
I don't know. I don't know for sure, but I don't think she has an official role.
So there's news yesterday that Kellyanne Conway has registered as a foreign agent. FARA. People who know what FARA means, it means that you are lobbying on behalf of a foreign government.
Thing that Hunter Biden should have. Yes.
Exactly. One of the things that Hunter Biden still has not been charged with, even though clearly he was doing business for foreign governments and interacting with the federal government, like, on a moment-by-moment basis with his
President
father.
Biden should also register, but go on.
Probably.
Yeah.
Well, Kellyanne Conway has registered as a foreign agent representing interests in Ukraine. And it appears to be specifically interests in Ukraine who are insistent on more American support and money for the war effort against Russia. Now, this is a free country, and there's nothing illegal about this, and good for Kellyanne for getting a nice contract. Everyone needs to pay the bills. But what about her relationship with the Trump campaign? Don Jr. has a live stream show on Rumble where he'll jump on and do his thing, and then sometimes he'll take questions from people, and you'll just hear his unfiltered responses. So here's his unfiltered response. And my favorite is it begins with, listen, I don't want to comment on this, but...
Madman PA, what's up with Kellyanne Conway registering as a foreign agent for Ukraine? Yeah, listen, hey, I like Kellyanne. I've known her for a long time. I don't know how. I don't know how do you do that. It doesn't make any sense to me. I mean, I guess you take the money and maybe that's DC or whatever happens over time. But I don't know how you can be part of a campaign and do that. I mean, clearly, the problem is this. The rich guys in Ukraine, they want the war to continue because they're stealing the money that we're sending them. They're happy to send the guys dying, on the battlegrounds as cannon fodder over there because they don't have any power, and so they'll send that. So, if you're working for Ukraine, it's hard. Like, I can't imagine anyone there is actually working for peace, and Trump's the only guy that could actually get peace there. So, yeah, like I said, I like Kellyanne a lot. That one, I don't know. It's just a little too. I don't want to comment any further because I'll get myself in trouble. But it's a little too swampy for my taste, and honestly, it's tough to sort of hard to believe.
Don't want to comment, but.
I'm not happy.
I would not be looking for Kellyanne Conway to have a role in the administration, let alone in the campaign. And maybe that's why she agreed to do this, because she knew that she wouldn't.
Well, look, her affiliation with the campaign last time, it cost her a lot. She sacrificed a lot. Then she was in the White House, and it cost her a lot.
Because we all realized that she was married to the worst human being
in the world. Yeah. And I sort of give an inch to someone who's been through what she's been through in terms of the upheaval in her own family. So maybe she just wants to take a break.
Fair enough. However, and I joking, I hope everyone understood the sarcasm in my voice when I said, hey, good for Kellyanne for getting a contract. No, this is exactly what's wrong.
Yes, I know.
I'm sorry. I mean, it's legal. Sure, it's legal. I don't care. This is why people hate Washington,
yes,
D.C.
It is. Yes.
That this person was just working in the White House and now is working on behalf of a foreign country and ensuring that country
billions and billions and billions of dollars with no end in sight.
And anytime anyone says, hey, maybe we should talk about a peace negotiation since it seems like it's a bloody, murderous standoff
you love
now.
Putin.
How dare you puppet for Putin?
Yes,
okay, who's a puppet?
Right.
6:53.